When the ANC came to power in 1994, it was more than a political party. It was the movement that ended decades of apartheid. South Africa was fractured, deeply unequal, and its institutions weak from years of exclusionary politics. The ANC had a massive expectation on its shoulders to redistribute opportunity, expand services, and bring the majority into the economy. Early efforts like the Reconstruction and Development Program focused on broad reforms, trying to tackle housing, healthcare, and education simultaneously. For many South Africans, these first steps felt monumental. Free primary education, wider access to hospitals and clinics, and utilities like electricity and clean water began reaching communities that had been left behind. People could see tangible change in their lives, and the ANC's political dominance reflected that trust. They held nearly 70% of the vote in 2004, which tells you how much confidence existed in their ability to govern. For a while, the ANC was synonymous with progress, and the country believed it could meet its massive expectations. Foundations of democracy, basic public services, and social safety nets were largely solidified in this era. And the first decade created real hope that South Africa could move beyond the apartheid legacy and into a society where opportunity was more evenly shared. After 2008, cracks started showing more clearly. The Zuma presidency coincided with systemic corruption that reached into almost every state entity. State capture, as it became known, involved private networks allegedly manipulating government contracts and siphoning public funds. Investigative journalism, especially exposés like the Gupta leaks, revealed collusion at the highest levels, which fueled widespread distrust. Institutions like SARS struggled to collect taxes efficiently, while ESCOM's mismanagement led to rolling blackouts that disrupted daily life and economic activity. These failures slowed growth, worsened unemployment, and exposed weaknesses in public services. Even basic expectations like consistent electricity, water, or functioning schools became unreliable in many areas. Municipalities faltered, housing projects stalled, and social programs were often underfunded or mismanaged. Politically, patronage networks took precedence over merit based governance, and public anger grew, including from people who had once been staunch ANC supporters. The party was no longer just a liberation movement. It had to prove it could deliver results for ordinary citizens. During this period, the ANC's reputation shifted from a trusted governing party to one struggling under corruption, mismanagement, and factionalism, making citizens question whether it could remain accountable and effective. Foundations laid in the early years were being undermined, and public confidence started to erode. By the late 2010s and early 2020s, the decline in trust became more pronounced. In the 2024 elections, the ANC fell below 50%, forcing it to form a coalition for the first time. This was historic. The party had long dominated South African politics, and suddenly single party control was gone. Polling during this period showed widespread dissatisfaction with governance performance. Rising crime, persistent inequality, and unemployment left citizens feeling frustrated, and surveys revealed alarming sentiments about public trust. Internally, the ANC recognized its own failures, including rampant corruption, factionalism, and slow economic transformation, signaling that the party knew it was in crisis. Coalition experience, especially with local governments, highlighted the ANC struggle to maintain control, even when it still had a plurality of votes. For ordinary South Africans, the question became less about loyalty to the liberation legacy and more about whether the party could deliver tangible results, jobs, security, services, and economic stability. The loss of majority was both a symptom and a signal. The public was no longer willing to give automatic trust based on history. Accountability was being demanded more urgently than ever. One of the clearest demands from citizens is that South Africa protects its sovereignty, particularly in technology and infrastructure. There is strong opposition to initiatives like Starlink, with people questioning whether Elon Musk's satellite internet should operate nationally. This isn't just about connectivity, this is a matter of national security and control. South Africans want their government to prioritize homegrown solutions, not allow foreign tech networks to operate unchecked. The question is whether the ANC has the political will and clarity to push back against powerful global companies and assert national priorities. Public sentiment indicates a desire for decisive action on strategic infrastructure and security, showing that people expect leadership that can resist outside influence. Citizens want control over critical systems and clear accountability for who manages access and data. And they are skeptical that the ANC can fully protect these interests. So far, they are not doing a bad job of leveraging more of their BRICS alliances, South South corporations, and limiting their dependence of Western imperialistic policies. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Whether the party can act effectively and stand against external pressures will be an immediate test of both credibility and governance. The broader theme here is trust. If the ANC can't secure basic technological sovereignty, people will question their competence across other critical areas, from the economy to national defense. Another urgent demand from South Africans is for the nation to protect itself in an increasingly unstable world. Citizens asking, do we have the political will and alliances to ensure national defense, including serious consideration of nuclear capability? The reality is that South Africa sits in a volatile regional and global environment, and security concerns are not abstract. They affect trade, foreign investment, and citizen safety. People expect leaders to not only maintain strong conventional forces, but also to consider deterrence mechanisms that can prevent threats from exploiting our vulnerabilities. The ANC's track record on defense modernization has been pretty uneven, and past scandals involving the military and defense procurement have weakened confidence somewhat. The public now wants a clear stance. Can the ANC navigate internal diplomacy while ensuring that South Africa is never left exposed? It's not just about policy on paper, it is about real readiness, real capability, and the ability to act decisively. Citizens are evaluating whether the ANC can step beyond historical legacy politics and take bold steps for national security today. Leadership can't demonstrate clarity, strategic planning, and international leverage. People will assume the country remains at risk, undermining trust in governance at every level. Economic fairness is another top priority. South Africans widely agree that the minimum wage needs to rise to at least 50 Rand per hour, giving workers a livable standard of income and addressing structural inequality. This demand is about dignity, it's about survival and economic participation. Citizens want to see wage growth that matches rising living costs. The question is whether the ANC can implement policies that actually raise incomes rather than stall through bureaucratic delays or political compromise. Raising wages is not just about legislation, it requires coordination with businesses, labor unions, and economic policy frameworks that ensure that jobs are sustainable. People are skeptical because historically, attempts at wage reform have been partial, they've been delayed, or undermined by inflation and corporate pushback. The government must also balance small business growth with wage reform, ensuring that raising pay does not destroy employment opportunities. Citizens are watching. If the ANC cannot make meaningful progress on wages, it will confirm a pattern of prioritizing political preservation over real economic empowerment. Minimum wage is more than just a number. It is a test of whether leadership can enforce policies that improve the lives of ordinary South Africans, particularly those who are most vulnerable in the labor market. Land reform remains a hot button issue with widespread calls for more aggressive action. South Africans are demanding that underutilized land be redistributed in ways that stimulate economic growth, in ways that expand ownership among historically marginalized groups and break up entrenched power structures. The ANC has historically struggled with this, balancing competing interests, legal challenges, and fears of economic disruption. Citizens want clarity. Will the party finally implement practical, effective reforms that accelerate access to land for productive use? Or will policies continue to drag slowly while inequality persists? Beyond redistribution, people want a reform that generates employment, increases agricultural output, and strengthens local economies. Political will matters here because implementing reform requires confronting resistance from powerful landowners, from navigating legal hurdles and coordinating with local governments. If the ANC cannot demonstrate decisive action, the perception will be that the party is either unwilling or incapable of tackling the structural inequalities holding back economic development. South Africans are clear. They want tangible results that grow the economy, not symbolic gestures that leave land idle and wealth concentrated in the hands of only 7% of the population, while 90 something percent of the population remains landless and wealthless. Citizens are calling for small business development to take priority over foreign investment and multinational employment. South Africans want a government that creates policies, incentives, and support structures for local entrepreneurs, ensuring jobs are created at home rather than relying on foreign companies. The NC has often struggled here, with support sometimes favoring large corporations over micro and small enterprises. People are asking, will the party invest in small business infrastructure, reduce red tape, and provide access to capital, training, and markets? Success in this area would improve economic self sufficiency. It would reduce unemployment and strengthen communities. Failure reinforces dependency, stagnation, and frustration, particularly among youth and rural populations. Citizens are increasingly savvy. They can see which policies actually create opportunities versus those that just look good on paper. Political will, consistency, and follow through are critical this time around. The ANC cannot prioritize small businesses over foreign centric economic models. Voters will lose faith in the party's ability to foster sustainable development, and the call for new leadership will grow even louder. Ultimately, the future of employment, innovation, and wealth distribution rests on whether government can empower South Africans to build and grow their own enterprises. So you tell me, can the ANC take us to the next level, or will they have to concede their power to a new generation?